Welcome to the Art of Lifting podcast. Today I am joined once again by Lewis. I won't give you much of an introduction. People know who you are. Actually, first question I'm going to ask you, because obviously on this I've spoken about the fact that you are now my coach. Previously on this I'd spoken about the fact that I am uncoachable. I didn't prep you for this, so this could be really insulting to me. Lewis, first very important question. What's it like being my coach?
Okay, it's not actually as bad as I thought it would be. You're actually way more coachable than you think you are. I think because you set the bar so low, anything above that, I was happy with. So when you
the most backhanded compliment ever.
Yeah, mate. When you said I give it 2 weeks, or was it Pate that said that? I'll give it 2 weeks. Then I took anything more than that. And how long's it been now?
6 months or so?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, chilling, mate. It's good.
Nice. I didn't prep you for that. That was funny. That could have been really insulting. No, last time you were on, I realized the other day, last time you were on, you mentioned like we kind of went through the growth of Forza, like moving into Forza and kind of Forza performance and everything. And I think I remember you saying one of the reasons you called it kind of Forza performance was so that you weren't capped within the powerlifting side, maybe one day like opening a training unit or something. And since the last episode we did together, you're now co-owner of Powering Through, which is, I would describe as a performance center type gym.
It is. It's probably I'd say before it was like that, when like obviously we had the smaller units, it was very much like S&C performance based, whereas now I think it's kind of coming away from that a little bit, because I feel like the whole performance word becomes a little bit elitist. So when we're trying to target the kind of everyday person now, then I think that's where we're kind of just swaying away from that, just purely like Powering Through gym now. That's what it is.
Yeah, that makes sense, to be fair. And I feel like, obviously having been there quite a few times, it isn't an elitist gym in any way at all. Like, it is a very welcoming gym. And yeah, I guess advertisement wise, if you kind of label it as a performance center, people are going to be put off actually joining.
Well, that was one of like the biggest issues they had before, was everyone thought it was like a powerlifting gym, because all people did there was powerlifting and all they posted was powerlifting. And then because Matt and the previous guy who owned it didn't really have I'd say a solid foundation of like knowledge of marketing, I guess, online, it kind of just looked like it was just a performance gym for powerlifting. And then you also did the other things with S&C, because there was a lot of like elite golfers and rugby players and stuff coming, and MMA fighters, whereas now like it's very much, well, hopefully from everything that I've done online and the marketing stuff, it's very much like an everyday person gym. And then when we say like it's more than a gym, like it really is kind of like more than that for a lot of people, and it's very like community based.
Yeah. So how have you found being a gym owner? Is it everything you imagined?
It's fucking stressful, mate. It's very stressful. It's a lot of work, but I think if you kind of like go in knowing it's going to be like that, then you can kind of prepare yourself to kind of work with it. Obviously the difficulty with me was because I had such a big powerlifting coaching company, well, not business, with under Forza, and I had like quite a large roster. Trying to balance the two to begin was quite difficult. But like the other side of that was, when I bought into the gym, we immediately started planning to expand it and then renovate it, and then we got another unit. So like the work straight away was a lot, versus like going into, say, like if I bought into it now, that work wouldn't be as much as what it was originally. And I think like I kind of expected that when it first happened, and I knew it was going to be very, very difficult to begin with, but I don't think I really realized how much work that was going to be. And I actually don't reflect on it now, like I didn't know as much as what I do now. And I think like that kind of hindered a lot of things, because of there's just so much to go into like running a business and running a gym that like I just didn't know, and kind of always went in a little bit because I wanted to get stuck in, but not realizing how much was going to be involved with doing it.
Yeah, I guess as well, because you guys moved units when you kind of bought in, and didn't you host a meet not long before you moved in as well? I remember.
Yeah, like a month before.
Yeah, and you guys did it, like the renovations and stuff you did yourselves, right?
Yeah, so we did all the reno ourselves. We got like a builder in to do, you've obviously been there, like the kind of like staff area physio room, and then we had a guy doing the electrics, but everything else we did. But to be honest, like with running the comp, it wasn't too bad. Was that the one you did? Was it that one you did? Yeah, it was that one, wasn't it? So it actually wasn't that bad, because like we actually had another unit to like move things around in, which actually made it a lot easier. Obviously running comps now is a lot easier as well, because we have more room. But to be fair, like I think running that comp on top of developing and renovating and like kind of trying to open that gym was not a smart move, but at the same time we already had it planned and everyone likes doing our comp, so we kind of wanted to make sure we still did that rather than kind of taking away from people because we're busy.
Yeah. Is the plan still to do the 2 meets a year? Because you normally do like your kind of earlier summer and then autumn kind of one.
Yeah, so May is now becoming like a 1 day comp, just because I think having the gym, one, because the gym shuts twice a year with that, and we want one comp to be like the really big one of the year. And then May is almost just like, because it's around a lot of the national comps with juniors and bucks and the English, it's just becoming more like I'd say still like a regional level. Well, they're both regional level comps, but like I think we're going to still put as much effort as we can into them because we try and do something better each comp. But this one's going to be like 1 day, just like 56 lifters, like come and have a good time. And then September will be a little bit more manic. We'll have it over both days. But it's more just because Saturday for us with like the High Rocks and the ATHX is so busy that we don't want to kind of always take it away. It's only 2 weekends a year, but like if you think about like the amount of people we have coming in just on a Saturday over the year is going to be 52 times. So like I don't want to take 2 of those 52 away from them. So we can just do it once and it's a little bit easier. And also it's a lot of work when we shut at 9 on a Friday to then get a comp ready for 7 a.m. the next day when people come to weigh in. So that is the plan, still do May and still do September. Originally it was like the September date because of how the British qualifying used to be, the procedure, but now that's kind of changed a little bit. There's not as much pressure to like have it exactly within September, like it could lean either way.
Yeah, that's a good segue for me to ask you what you think of the new procedure. So I did have a skim read of it. Is the new procedure basically top 16 if you hit the qualifying total and then overflow if there's more spaces, I think?
I won't lie, mate. I actually haven't really read it. The only thing I've seen is just the QTs. I've sent it and then I kind of just brushed over it. But I looked at what the QTs were and then just saw they've changed the date to qualify now is, I believe, 5 weeks before. So it's a lot later to qualify for it. And then also the QTs are a lot higher, which I
think it's essentially the same as it used to be with the QTs, except they're significantly higher. And then I think it's capped at, it's either 14 or 16. I have a feeling it's 16, so it can be like 2 flights of 8, I'm assuming is the logic. But then if there's weight classes that don't fill, which there's bound to be, then they're going to do like the GL overflow.
Well, because you get that with the English, right? So you got like the 93s, for example, there are so many of them versus like the 120s. I think there's like 4. So like you're going to get a lot of that in the weight classes where the kind of the standard is so high, especially that kind of 93, 105 kind of range. From what I know, and obviously what from you said now, I agree with it. I think it's a good thing. I think it still separates that kind of, this is the highest level comp we have in the UK, like bar Sheffield, which isn't really like a UK comp, that's a IPF comp. But like for British powerlifting, that's the highest level comp we're ever going to have. And if that's what you want to aim toward to get to, then I think it's a good kind of like segue into like getting stronger and trying to like have a goal to aim for, right? Same with any sport. If you did track and field or you play football, like you want to kind of get to that national level, right? So
yeah, no, I agree. I think it's probably a better way to do it. I think it'll also be interesting, like because last year powering through regional in September was like the last weekend to qualify, wasn't it? And we actually, I think it was at the 93s or something, like we're actually like battling running numbers to secure spots at nationals, which is a really cool thing to do at regional. And I'm wondering if that's still going to be the case, because there's like classes like that are so stacked that they're still going to probably wait until fairly last minute to secure their spot.
I think as well, like if you think, for example, what would you as a lifter be comfortable with having block wise into a comp? I'd say most people would want at minimum 2, so that's going to be roughly 8 to 10 weeks, because I think our comp sits in September, so you've almost got 1, 2, 3, like 12
roughly 3 blocks,
3 blocks, which I think is also another good like kind of block length to go into a competition. So I wouldn't be surprised basically if people then started to do that kind of comp, because it is early in September. You still got like a lot of time into nationals versus doing one in like say the English now and then not competing to nationals, especially if you're on a really competitive weight class like the 93s or the 105s, because then you're going to run the kind of issue if someone then hits that total that kind of nudges you by 2.5. It's always the benefit of hitting like a comp total nearer the time, because then you can just see kind of what the standard is roughly, just like do a bit of scouting, like go on open, I think go on open IPF, see kind of where people are sat and go, right, I only need to hit this at this comp, and then they would then have to get like another comp in really soon. So then it kind of puts a lot of pressure on people. So you could almost like be quite strategic with it. I wouldn't be surprised if we had that as well.
Yeah, I hope we do. It made it definitely more fun last year. And to be fair for myself, if I crash out again over the next 3 weeks in the lead up to English, I'll just do powering through in September.
Very possible, right?
It's very possible. want to ask you about your stepping back from powerlifting. So obviously you're still coaching powerlifting, but you are no longer competing / training as a powerlifter. You've gone down a very strange, silly route.
Yeah, so now I'm basically training for ATHX. And to be fair, like I said, probably this time last year, when I saw what we were doing with the gym, I said to Lily, I was like, it wouldn't be surprised within the next couple of years if I started doing more of this kind of hybrid training. Not purely because of like health, but like for a lot of other reasons, being really busy with life and just like other goals, and obviously getting a little bit older and thinking about like longevity and like having a family and stuff. So I think with powerlifting as well, having done it for 10 years, because like, you've done it for 10 years as well, right?
9, I think. It's my 9th year.
Almost like a decade. It's like a long time. So I think trying to do something a little bit different for a little bit was kind of what I thought about doing. And I actually really, really like it. And there's a lot of other benefits, which I can go into in a bit. But for me, coming away from just doing powerlifting training for like 3-4 hours a day, sometimes those weekend sessions as well could be like 5 hours, right? If it's busy. I didn't have the time, mate, to do that, and then want to run a gym and run Forza, and now I'm doing another like hybrid coaching with Matt from the gym as well, so we're kind of doing another thing, and then eventually maybe do another thing. So just like trying to think of it more than just I want to do this to get stronger, but for me there's a lot of other factors that kind of go into it.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And to be fair, I think if I didn't have my setup at home and I was going to a powerlifting gym to train all the time, because anytime you're in that kind of environment and you're training around other powerlifters, your session's going to take longer. Like it's quite hard unless you literally say to everyone, I'm not talking, I'm in out, which still doesn't really work when you say that. It does then make training take that much longer. And I guess when you're then busy with other stuff going on, like when you were opening the gym and stuff, fitting in training was probably really difficult. So yeah, I get that.
I had the English, so I was going to do the English, and I was always going to do it up until maybe 2 weeks out, kind of see how, because I had the returning champion spot, so it was always guaranteed a spot anyway. So I was like, well, I'll just see how it was a couple of weeks out, and if I feel okay, do it. If I don't. And I think 5 weeks out, I can't remember what it was. I think I was squatting. I literally did a single at 190 and it felt like RP10. Like, I don't know what it was. I've never had this like feeling of powerlifting before, but like my legs and my muscles just felt like they were gone. And this was a period when obviously we were doing the gym. I wasn't sleeping. I was getting maybe 3-4 hours a night. We were up till God knows what, doing stuff all the time. And there was just so much stress going into it. And I was like, there's no point in me doing this and trying to compete, especially when I've got a history of like having quite bad injuries. And I was like, for the sake of my health, there is no point. But what I did like at the time was I took, I think about 2 to 3, I think I had 2 weeks off benching, 3 weeks off squat and deadlifting, still went in the gym on the first day we opened, trained with everyone, still managed to squat like 270, pull 285, bench 170, got comfortably off, not training at all. And I was like, look, I think strength's always going to kind of be here. And then having done that as well, kind of made me think, well, if I then stop powerlifting, am I going to get that much weaker if I kind of still kind of do some exercise and do some of it? And so like even now, like my strength is more or less very, very similar, having lost a lot of weight as well.
Yeah, and I think that's as well. You're still doing all of the main movements, right? You're just not following that program. Like you're still squatting and deadlifting every week. Are you still benching as well at the minute?
Yeah, so this is why I chose ATHX, because you don't do bench in ATHX, but you still do squat and deadlift, and that's kind of why it appealed to me, because I still like doing those movements. It was just, what can I do that's going to almost like transition me into it without going full like high rocks or going into something like CrossFit, which doesn't interest me at all. Whereas ATHX is a very nice, like middle ground between both of those worlds. So powerlifting and your kind of hybrid, what's called hybrid training now. So yeah, I still squat twice a week, I deadlift once a week, and I bench twice a week. That's purely just, I don't have to, I still want to do some benching. But yeah, like mate, I've still benched like 190 in the last couple of weeks. I'm still like doing 270 for singles and triples, and I can pull 270 as well. Like I'm still relatively strong-ish for what I need to do with ATHX. But the goal is to kind of like do an ATHX and then be the strongest one there, but still be able to run the 5-10K after in the row or whatever, and then do the Metcon at the end, and kind of be like an all-round athlete now.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think the takeaway from that is also it's not actually that easy to get weaker. Like if someone takes a little bit of a step back for a bit, you're probably not going to get much weaker. Like if you now jump straight back into powerlifting programming, your strength will probably come back reasonably quickly. Like you've not lost that much at this point for it to not be a priority as well.
Probably. And like one thing that me and IFTY, for example, who I think are doing in February, and I'm trying to persuade Pape as well, is just like find like a local comp and just sign up and do it. Yeah. Just literally like 5-6 weeks out, like we'll just be training as we are now. Like maybe he is for rugby, how I am for ATHX, and how IFTY is for like ATHX and his marathon training and just go, solid, let's just go do our comp together for fun and kind of see where we are. Like, I wouldn't change my training really. I'll just go and hit some like numbers and kind of see where it's at.
I guess instead of making it into this big deal where you have this big comp that you're aiming towards, actually like, no, like with it, we're strong. Let's just show up, see what we think of it, like no pressure on it.
I think like that, what you said then about pressure and like the mindset and mental kind of attitude of powerlifting was also what kind of swayed me away from it. Because like trying to trying to mentally be present in the moment for like where I want to be with powerlifting on top of everything else was like another stressor that I just didn't need. And I think like a lot of people kind of get into this rut and position with powerlifting where like mentally it kind of just consumes you. And it's, I know what you mean. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not.
I know what you mean
right now, but like it really consumes you. And like having now seen Lily also go away from powerlifting to do like half a marathon training, but still on a bench, the change in just like how we are in our mood and like everything has been so different. And like even on a personal level, like regardless of the body weight loss stuff, like not going to bed so stressed or like watching your lift that you've obviously like just overshot, or it's not gone as how you want it, and just realizing fucking hell, like why did I always say and think that? And almost being a little bit more like, okay, I ran 5k today and I did this and I feel great and I'm just gonna go to bed now, and like I just feel really like zen when I'm like resting in the evening. Whereas before there's always this like up and down kind of like, I don't know, arousal level with powerlifting where like you're getting so high hitting these lifts and it's so low when you don't hit those lifts, and it's just a constant thing over and over and over again, which I don't think is probably something that I've not really reflected as much on, having gone into like this hybrid training now.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean. I don't think my training ever impacts my mood. I don't crash out or anything ever.
I'll post my on my story or screenshots the other day, and we'll just let it decide.
How many times I put that I cried after my session?
Mate, you're fine.
No, I don't do it very often. To be fair, that's why I also hired you, was because I did just keep crashing out, and I was like, this is so silly. Like, and then when I had a bad session on Sunday, I remember I just said to my boyfriend, I was like, I pay someone to worry about this now. This isn't my problem. So I just put it all on you.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And do you know what? That, like, joking aside, that's another thing as well. When you're coaching like 50, 60 people and you've got some of them, it's really weird how like it always goes in waves where like you have one weekend, everyone has an amazing training weekend session. The next week, like it kind of just falls and everyone's having a shit one. It's like, what the fuck is going on? What's going on? What's in the water? And then like when you're dealing with kind of what they're saying and their emotions, and you're trying to like deal with your own emotions with training, and then whatever else you've got going on in life, it's just like it's just another thing to kind of worry about.
Yeah. Do you think since taking a step back from powerlifting training, it's actually helped your coaching then?
Yes, because I've got way more time, which is the main thing. So like when I, obviously you know how I kind of operate my work, but like when I have my working hours, my working days, like I can actually get things done that I need to get done, rather than, so when I go to the gym now, I either go to do stuff at the gym for like the business, or I go and train for like an hour and a half max. That's literally it, and I'm done. So I have more of my time back in the day. So like my days are quite like regimented now with my schedule. So when I'm doing replies, or if I've got like days to do programs, I can actually do it properly on those days, rather than, I don't know, maybe going to train in the afternoon, like having the morning like at home or doing something at home, and then walking the dog, whatever, go to train for like 4 or 5 hours, and then it's like half an hour back, another hour on top of it, and it gets to 7 at night. I'm like, I've got to do all my replies now. I'm really tired. It's almost like it's kind of giving me more structures of kind of doing those. So then when I go to respond to people, I'm not saying that I did this before, but like it almost kind of made my replies a little bit more thought out. And like, I'm not just kind of like just trying to clear my WhatsApp, which I think as coaches, we can get into a habit of doing when we are a bit tired. And it's like, I know I need to respond to this person. It's almost like you're not really 100% there doing it at the time, which is why now when I come to do like replies, or if I try to do programs, I make sure I sit at my desk like I am now on my computer, like doing it, versus just like sitting on the sofa, like clearing my phone. Because I like, not that it was ever bad, but I think from a quality of work perspective, I could probably do a better job doing all this, and maybe like thinking about my response more than just kind of like saying something really quick to kind of like send some feedback to that person.
I also think as well, like for me, like I have a general rule, unless I'm super busy and have no time, I don't reply on my phone. I will only ever reply to people when I'm at my desk, because you just feel more present, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that goes with like any kind of like work that you're doing. Like if I sit in a cafe on my laptop, I don't know why, I can't concentrate as much. But if I'm in an office and I'm sat down and that's all I'm doing and there's no noise around me, then I can kind of crack on with it straight away. I just think also like not powerlifting as well for coaching has always allowed me to kind of find what and I said about being more regimented with my schedule, but just like even just basic things like writing to-do lists and actually getting through them properly. Yeah. So like now when I go to write my to-do list and the bottom it says I need to train today or whatever, just to kind of say to make sure I've done it, because sometimes like because the sessions are so short, sometimes I can just skip them and be fine with it. It's just like, I don't know, having that allows me to just be more kind of like present within my work, like you said, and actually like doing a good job amongst like all the other things I've got to do with work now as well, not just powerlifting coaching. But I think also just like because of the way that I operate as my coaching business, because I have certain like systems in place to do things, it kind of makes things a little bit more, I don't know, again, like regimented to kind of get the work done.
Yeah. Wanted to ask you as well about the current trend in powerlifting of a lot of powerlifters are actually focusing on their health now. Shocking. People have realized feeling healthier and looking after their health will actually help them compete as an athlete better and perform better. And obviously one thing you mentioned before was obviously you've lost quite a bit of weight since transitioning more to like the ATHX style of training. Were you a full 120 before?
I weighed 123.
Yeah. And where are you sitting now?
113.
I briefly asked this kind of before we start recording, but obviously like within powerlifting, it is a thing where people force weight gain and they force themselves up. But obviously you just kind of gradually grown as you did the sport, right? 10 years in the sport, just kind of gradually transitioned up weight classes in like a good way of doing it. But do you think, I don't want to say you started the trend of adding more cardio in or PAPE. I'm not giving either of you credit, but people do copy you guys. And I do think when you both started doing more, it became more of a trend. And I hate that that's a thing. But I guess I'm kind of asking like your thoughts on like the forcing the weight gain side of it. And do you see the same thing of like people are transitioning more to, oh wait, no, I need to look after my health now, and actually, you know, cardio and powerlifting do go together if you do it properly and stuff like that?
Yeah, because when I started 10 years ago, powerlifting was always like, what weight class can you sit in that's the lowest? And then as it's kind of grown over those 10 years, it's now become what can you sit in at the highest, because that's where you're going to be strongest at. So you've got probably people who are way too short for their weight classes, probably sitting way too heavy. And actually, if they were a little bit more patient over time, you'll probably see better progress, not only on the bar, but also just like in life and being healthy. So I think it's almost like it's just the way the pendulum swings, and like it's just everything just goes around at some point. And I think now we're just seeing that another 180 on. No one really wants to like sit too heavy and kind of be too big for their frame, and also like you have to factor stuff in like how you look, and like are you comfortable being like that, are you not comfortable being like that, and all those kind of things play into it. I think as well, like probably more, I know you said about the trend thing, but if you're seeing other people online doing this and they're used to be good powerlifters and now they're coming away from it a little bit, or people that get injured and go to do these things, now I'm like touch wood, like I haven't had a single injury since I started this 4 months ago, which is very rare for me. So like my back isn't always hurting and all these other things. If you're then seeing other people do that, it kind of like flicks a switch in your head of maybe I was thinking that a little bit, and now actually I need to start doing that. Because literally I posted a lot about it to begin with, because that was almost like I needed to have that accountability of like, if I post this today, I know I'm going to do this, so I need to keep doing it and doing it. And within probably the first month of doing it, I reckon I had 6 to 8 clients go straight away, oh, can I have some more cardio? And like seeing like what you've done is like made me kind of think I need to start doing this as well. So I know we joke about the whole trend thing, but I think it does have a bit of an effect when you see that online of what someone's doing, especially someone who's like coached at a high level or compete at a high level like PAPE, and you see us doing these things. Then I think for other people, it's like, maybe I need to start adding that in a little bit. And like, to be honest, I was very, very anti, you can't really do cardio and powerlift. I didn't think it was possible. And now having done it, I do think it's possible. And also I coach people who do a lot of cardio and they are still very, very good and very, very strong. So I think it kind of, having now done this and kind of like almost living it, it's kind of like got rid of that stigma of where I thought the whole cardio and powerlifting thing could be combined. And maybe because of that, people obviously sitting heavier, and now they're thinking, right, maybe I should probably come down a little bit. And I think there's like another aspect to it, like aesthetics is coming back in a little bit as well. So like I think back when I started powerlifting and back when you started powerlifting, it was always like sitting a bit lighter and being like aesthetically like looking good and whatever, and like bodybuilding was so big. And I think we kind of swayed away a little bit, and strength was so like important. And then now it's almost like the balance of both, this where this whole hybrid thing is coming in. Hybrid also being like aesthetic, strength, and like cardio basically. So like you can like kind of do all three or two of those three. So I think that is also why this is kind of like happening, and I think it's a good thing for people's health in general.
I think it's a good thing as well. And you might not believe this, but I've not always done cardio, but I've also always been an advocate for doing some form of cardio. I remember one of my friends a while back, he's like decent level powerlifter, I won't name him, but he wanted to start running. And just like he had a lot of stuff like going on in his personal life. He kind of wants to just start running just in the evenings and whatever else, get some cardio in. But he had a few bigger comps coming up that year. And he spoke to me and asked for my opinion. And I was like, well, you're not running a marathon. You're literally going for like a 15-minute jog. You're generally quite a fit person anyway. If it's going to provide you a bit of mental clarity and a bit of just like time to yourself to do something and make you feel good, maybe don't do it the week of comp, but you're probably going to be all right. But one of their coaches was like, because he used to play a lot of football, and one of their coaches was like, yeah, but when you played football, you didn't compete at a high level. Now you compete at a high level, you need to pick one or the other. And I'm like, do you need to pick one or the other? Like, really?
I don't think you do. I think you can do both. The only thing I would say though is you have to, depending on how heavy you are, you do have to transition to a little bit. Like you will run the risk of like getting hurt. If you say, for example, if I just went straight into do what I do this block now with all the conditioning and the work I'm doing, then chances are I would have been done within like 2 weeks. Like shin splints, like knee problems, like ankle problems and Achilles problems. I think these things are stuff you have to kind of transition into. If you're someone who's like, I don't know, a 70-kilo guy, or like Ifty, for example, weighs like 70 kilos, he could easily just like start running and be fine, and he never really had any issues with it. But if you're like me and you're 120 and you're trying to get into like running for like that mental clarity, we want to do something different, which is kind of why I did it as well, then you have to almost like have this transition period into it rather than just kind of go straight into it. So it's almost like you can balance the two and you can do both, but you have to almost allow yourself to, say powerlifting's here and the running is like here to begin with, you have to slowly bring them up to that level point rather than going powerlifting running straight away, because that's when you're going to get hurt.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, you have obviously given some tips there, but advice for people wanting to introduce more cardio, what would you kind of say the main things? Is it just taking it slow to begin with? Yeah.
So if you were, say for example, with when we're going to running, like starting off with like slow tempo runs is really good, like once a week to begin with. So that basically means like you're running. It's so boring. I did this for a month and I hated it. But like
running is always boring.
It's actually not. You know what? It's actually not. But if you do basically 10 seconds running, which like is not like a lot, it's like 60-70%, and then you do 40-50 seconds walking. Do that for a month, like once a week, maybe then go twice a week, and then like on the other second session you add something else in, or use the bike is another one I'm quite a big advocate of, like getting your legs used to like feeling like they've got a lot of like lactic in them, because then you kind of get used to like feeling like the heaviness of your legs. So when you start running, you're kind of used to it. But the other thing with that as well, you need to add plyometric work in. So I always kind of knew about this anyway, because we did a lot of this at university. We did a lot of S&C stuff. We did a lot of plyometric work with case studies when we were there. So when Matt started prescribing me a lot of this plyometric work, I kind of knew why it was important, but I don't think I really kind of like appreciated why it was important, because I remember running when I was, must have been 26, 27, when I think it was during COVID, so like 4 or 5 years ago now. And I went for a run and I had shin splints within like the first 2 weeks of doing it. Whereas now I can run 3 times a week and have no shin splints, nothing at all, because I'm conditioning myself to that impact. Because like if you think about like how much force goes through the ground, especially if you're heavier and you're just like hitting the ground continuously, then your body is not used to that, and it's not used to that impact. So then you're almost like conditioning it into like feeling of doing these kind of movements that are kind of low. It's low impact stuff, but like it kind of builds up over time. So like a lot of plyometric work is very, very important, like hops, bounds, jumps and stuff. But you have to, again, just like slowly introduce that. Don't go like full athlete mode of it, because then you might just start flaring things up.
Yeah. It's just funny hearing you say all this, and I'm like, can you remember that I think it was before British last year when I was trying to get my weight down, like I increased my steps and like my ankles and my shins and everything, which is so much pain. And I'm like, I was trying to do 10k steps a day and I had all of these symptoms that you're describing for someone that's trying to start running.
Yeah, I'm walking, mate.
This is why I hate running. I don't get it anymore. It's fine. So with this all, you have obviously expanded your coaching now as well. Like you kind of said earlier, outside of just obviously powerlifting coaching, you are also doing more of like the kind of hybrid type of coaching. So kind of what are you doing within that? Like how has that all come about?
So basically it's just something that me and Matt spoke about. Matt is the other guy who owns Power and Through, and he is an S&C coach, everyday PT. He's done high rocks, ATHX, run marathons, like he's done everything. He used to play rugby, he still plays rugby, he used to play football. So he's got a very, very, very like varied background in training, and he doesn't know about like the kind of strength stuff as much as I do for like SBD stuff, but he has a very, very good knowledge of conditioning and kind of like everyday people training. So together, like I've known him for I think 7 years now, but like since I've kind of come into this more hybrid style of training, and he's like, I think because he wants to go a little bit more away from just everyday people, like for in-person PT, and kind of do a little bit more online, also a little bit more in the hybrid space. He was like, why don't we come together, use your knowledge for powerlifting and your like knowledge of like programming, like linear progression, or periodization, etc. My kind of like knowledge of what everyday people kind of need, and like the S&C side of things and all the conditioning, plyometric work, running, whatever, combine those together and then offer it as something for people who do ATHX, high rocks, rugby players, powerlifters that want to do conditioning, whatever it might be. If you kind of want that, then we can help with that. And I think we've got like, so we only started this literally a couple of weeks ago. We've got 7 clients at the moment, and I think 3 of them do ATHX. One of them we had a call with the other day, she plays rugby. Another lad we had a call with yesterday who's a powerlifter, and another ex-powerlifter, and another ex-powerlifter doing ATHX. So like there's a kind of varied group to it. And I think for me, because I enjoy this kind of like style of training, and I still love powerlifting and I still enjoy powerlifting training, I think I just wanted to do something a little bit different. So I'm not just coaching powerlifting. I want to kind of do something that's a little bit more the hybrid route as well, on top of the powerlifting stuff. So obviously I've had to pull the powerlifting numbers down a little bit to kind of balance all three, like 2 things plus the gym. But that's kind of like why I wanted to do it. And obviously now I'm doing these kind of ATHX things. I think if I want to help people kind of get better for it, I need to kind of do it myself as well. So I need to kind of understand it a bit more.
Have you got a date planned for the first ATHX, or is it going to just be early next year? You said like February time. Are you going to do one this year as well?
So we've literally got an ATHX sim that we're putting on the gym next month, which is the week after our comp. So we have our powerlifting comp on the 24th, and then we have an ATHX comp on the 31st. And then me and Matt are doing a pairs comp in Birmingham in August. And then I'm going to do a solo, which is like obviously doing it on your own, in Liverpool in October. So I've got 3.
Nice. Like you said, you've got to give it a go, right? If you're going to teach, you've got to do it.
Exactly.
That sounds like hell, but I'm sure you'll have a great time. Do you think as well, with the common topic at the moment is burnout within powerlifting? Because I think we've all kind of noticed a lot of people are just kind of needing something a bit different, which, to be fair, I don't know if you ever had this, but I think most of the people that have been around since we started powerlifting have had some level of break at some point. A lot of us kind of forced to through COVID, where we just kind of kept active in other ways and stuff. But I think a lot of people now are starting to have like that little bit of, I think I need a break from powerlifting. I need to transition to something different. And I think where you're saying, like, you've got powerlifters obviously coming into this new kind of coaching that you're offering, showing people that you can do the cardio side alongside the powerlifting stuff might be a good way to stop people from kind of quitting / burning out, taking that break, because they're kind of learning that you can do more than just one thing.
I think also, yeah, and with that as well, if you think about where powerlifting program has been from the last like couple of years, especially, where it is very much just the same thing over and over and over again. And to be fair, like it used to kind of be like that, but it was way more kind of staggered in those same blocks. So you might have like more of your volume block and then a different block, and then you'd have those same blocks leading into a comp. Whereas now, like, it's very much you're just doing the same thing over and over again because it's shown to have worked, right? So when we joke about like the whole golden micro thing, like we know it works. But I do think that's then led to people getting burnt out. And like, even if I've had a client, when did she decide to do it? I think it was recently, who she did a comp and she had the best comp ever, and she got really, really strong. She was super happy with it. But then as soon as we did one block after the comp, which it wasn't like that similar, but like it was a similar-ish powerlifting block, it was like, oh, I'm a bit like burnt out with powerlifting now. Yeah. But we had that comp, you did fantastic. You're talking about doing these other things now in the future. So yeah, I just had this kind of realization that I've hit these markers and hit these kind of goals. Maybe now, like, I actually want to do something a bit different. And it's kind of funny where people find this kind of like realization for almost like transitioning away a little bit. And I don't think it kind of like hits you even if when you're at your lowest. I think it kind of hits you even when you're at your peak, what your highest point is. But I do agree with you, like, since we've started, I've loads of people that I know have had a break from powerlifting, or at least competing in powerlifting. I think I've had but this is the second time I think I've had like a significant time off, because I'd same as you, like during COVID, I went and did like Olympic weightlifting and did some sort of like CrossFit training for a bit, which I just did not like, but it was just something different from powerlifting because we couldn't really do it because of COVID. But yeah, this whole like burnout thing, like it's definitely becoming more common, and I do wonder whether it's because of like the kind of repeated nature of training for powerlifting, which is going to be the same in most sports. And it's quite funny because like the way I train now for ATHX with the strength stuff, I'm literally running the same block every single time because all the variability comes from accessory work and the conditioning, which changes loads. So I think maybe combining both, like you said, is probably what's needed. So they can go in and do their squat, bench, and deadlift, but they know like, oh, okay, this week I'm doing this for my cardio, or I'm doing a Metcon this day, or I'm doing, I don't know, a session load like EMOM work, and I'm on the bike for this, whatever. And that's adding the variability in the change versus just having the same kind of SBD program and the same accessories.
Yeah, I think that's where the Golden Micro, on an episode I filmed with Jasper, which I don't know what order I'm putting these all out, we were talking about the fact that the Golden Micro is kind of the best and worst thing in a lot of ways, because it works. Like having, like, I don't know how much we've changed, other than working around my injury, we've barely changed my program since we started, because like it works, just keep going, right? And I'm someone that enjoys doing the same thing over and over again. But like the Golden Micro almost has taken away from people daring to do something different. Whereas if someone like, I'm quite happy, like, you know, back in the day, like you mentioned, you used to do like your volume, like hypertrophy phase, and then you do your strength phase and your peaking phase. And I absolutely don't do that. But if someone post comp is like, oh, I'm getting a bit bored, and they like hate squatting, I'm like, all right, well, we'll just do some machine work for a bit rather than squatting, and not being afraid to kind of lean away from that. But I think with like a lot of the coaches, for example, that came up during the Golden Micro era, they wouldn't ever dream of taking something out because they think then it's not powerlifting. And it's like, well, it is, because you can come back to it.
Even with like your program, right? Like there have been changes and things we've tried to do, like scoring 3 times a week versus 2, and like now you've got this heavy Larson day rather than like having that 3 count bench. So like the way
everyone wants a heavy Larson day now.
Mate, heavy Larson singles, the new meta. You know, you said about copying trends. There's another one. Yeah. But like, I think the way I look at it with the whole Golden Micro thing is like, as long as the days kind of stay the same of what all you're doing things, I think that's where you can start changing things you need to, but also like trying to like almost change it. I think it's also why my programming methodology is very much kind of like top down versus bottom up, because then I plan in advance and know what we're doing. So then if we are trying stuff, I know roughly how long we kind of need if it doesn't work to then transition it back to what we know did work. So, and you also you're never going to know like what's working unless you don't try it. And I think people do get a bit scared of like changing things because they're like, oh, but this has gone so well now, we've done this for 2 comps. It's like, yeah, cool. So you know that works, put that to the side for a second, and then maybe try something a little bit different. And if that doesn't work, then you can go back to what did work, because the time it takes to adapt back to other things is not going to be that long. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think it definitely is like the best and also the worst thing.
Yeah, I think this is also where, linking back to what we said earlier about like, it's actually quite hard to get weaker. Like you're still like granted you're not peak strength right now, but you're also not trying to be peak strength right now, and you've not powerlifted in how long? Like if you're still following a structured powerlifting plan, but you've just made like these minor changes just to make it a little bit more fun, they might not keep you feeling quite as peak strong, but you're not going to get weaker. And like you said, you can quite easily transition back to where you were if it doesn't work for whatever reason. And I think people are starting to see that that's not as scary to try, but I do think that is a part of the burnout issue as well.
I think as well, it's also because you're still doing something, like you said, like you're still doing something versus doing nothing. If you found what worked and then you did nothing for a month versus doing, I don't know, say you powerlifted and then you went and go to play like paddle 4 times a week, right? You're still being active. I'm trying to think of something completely different, but like you're still being active and doing something. If you come back into the lifting again, I can guarantee you, like when you first start, yes, you're going to feel a little bit weaker. Things are going to feel completely alien. But like if you just did nothing in comparison, you're going to feel a lot better than you would like from doing nothing. I think it's why, like when I said to you at the start of this, when I did the kind of opening of the gym and I didn't train for 2 or 3 weeks, but then I still managed to hit those numbers after it. It was still because I was doing like a lot of like manual labor, a lot of like moving stuff around, building equipment, like picking really heavy things up and like almost like pressing things on my head to pass things over and stuff. That does translate. But if you're just like sedentary and doing nothing, then obviously that's going to be a lot worse. So I think people will be surprised of how much they can maintain and how hard, like you said, it is to get weaker.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not going to keep you too much longer because you said you don't have too long. What have you got coming up? We've got All England's in a couple of weeks, and you've got
Bucks next week.
Yeah, Bucks next week. Got many lifters at Bucks this year?
Got 6. So I've got 257s, 63, 369s. Oh no, 7 people. Yeah, and an 84. So 7 at Bucks and then 7 at English, I think, as well.
I'm intrigued by the junior schedule this year because obviously it's Commonwealth year and they've split up all of the All Englands so that everyone, because it's going to be a busy year because of Commonwealth selection. And it wasn't until about a month ago I realised that they've literally got a juniors comp every single month. So they've got, is it Bucks first, juniors the month after, and then English juniors the month after that as well. So I'm quite intrigued to see how that all plays out because the entries currently for All Englands are pretty low because obviously people are going to be prioritising probably juniors over that, like British juniors over that anyway. Are you at all 3?
Well, I haven't got anyone actually wanting to do English juniors yet, so currently no. So Bucks is literally next week, so we're going to that. Yeah. Definitely going to British juniors, and then no one said they want to do English juniors yet.
Yeah.
I think, but the thing is as well, I don't know whether they put it together so close so like people have to then choose what comp they're doing, and like actually peaking for that comp rather than just trying to do. You're never going to be able to do all 3 properly in that short period of time of like 11 weeks. So I think actually in a way it's probably been better because then people can go, right, I'm not going to do British this year. I'm actually going to focus on the English and then try and get a Commonwealth spot. But then you're probably going to get some people who are like, what if I miss out on Commonwealth? I could have done British. So it's like, just pick your comp and just do it versus trying to do all 3 because you're going to get an international from any of those 3. It just depends on what you think you're going to be most competitive at.
Yeah, 100% true to be fair. Although juniors can compete every 3 weeks. That's fine.
Kids, man.
Me as a junior, I would have been at all 3.
We could not do that.
I'd do that now. If it was open, I'd do that now.
It won't go very well.
I have a question for you. So you hinted at the Larson Press meta. So if anyone doesn't know, you've just basically been programming everyone super heavy Larson Press, and it's just loads of fun. Not everyone, but I've been doing it.
There's 2 of you, literally 2.
Is it just me and Betty?
Literally you and Betty. That's the only people I've given it to.
Nice.
And then Annabelle does rep work last. A lot of people I give like tertiary rep work for. But there's only like certain people I give the Larson to because I think it's actually going to have a positive effect, and it just happens to be you 2.
And I'm going to out Larson Press Betty.
Yeah.
Somehow.
What's your 130?
Yeah, I'm only like 17 away. It's fine. What was the thought process behind it? Let's dive into my programming because I never ask you questions about my program.
So yeah, actually you don't. So for you, it was like because you obviously had the issue of your bum coming up, and when you get actually, to be fair, it's very similar to why I gave it to Betty too. So like if you have an issue of your bum coming up or your feet slipping when you bench and you kind of overly rely on leg drive, I like people to get comfortable and feel better kind of maintaining position without the use of the legs. So like some people, when you see them set up a bench, they get to a really good arch, and then if you ask them to lift their legs up, their arch completely flattens or it just drops off significantly. So if you can learn to almost like stabilize yourself on your neck pressure, with your neck pressure, on your traps, so kind of using your lats a little bit and maintain that position, that should hopefully then translate into a normal bench press. So then if you do have issues with like your bum coming up or your feet slipping, you haven't got to overly rely on that kind of that way of benching, right? So like in comp, if I said to you that we need to kind of change something and we need to kind of do it now because your bum's flying up or your feet are literally sliding out in front of you, if you've had exposure to benching heavy with your feet up, then my theory is like if you can hit like what you did 112 or better with 130, then even if it's like a mental thing or a confidence thing or it's all kind of like placebo, you can then go into the competition on your second or third attempt going, right, I've Larson pressed this or I've Larson pressed more than this. I can easily do this without overly thinking of I need to just shove my legs down and push into the floor. Because I think that's when I've seen some people in their training, they have no bum lift, and you go to comp and it's almost like, I know with you there was obviously a body weight fluctuation thing as well, but like if you have people that just have like confidence issues and they kind of overly focus on like one cue or like one thing, and I do this a lot, like I'd overly do leg drive to kind of almost compensate a little bit. But if you can then know I've done this with my feet up, I don't have to kind of almost think about it too much. So that was kind of my thinking behind it. And obviously I did it with Betty because of like the whole feet thing at Euros, and I was like, if we can get you really strong at Larson press, then when you come to your next competitions, you haven't got to really worry about like how much leg drive you're using. And it's kind of worked pretty well. And the same theory with you was like, if you can, when you bench the same as British that you did last block, right? The same way. So it's like, if you know you can do that, say if you have touch wood, you don't have a similar issue, then you know I've Larson pressed this. So
I would like to say though, I put it sarcastically to begin with, I think comp bench should be Larson press. From a ref perspective, how much easier would your life be?
Oh yeah, because like most people would hit death. Your bum's gonna come up, your feet aren't going to slide, The only 2 points of contact is then going to be your bum and your neck on the bench.
Yep.
How many people are going to last press with their head up? Probably not a lot.
That'd be really funny. So I put it up as a joke, but genuinely, I think it's a really good idea, and I think it should be put forward because it would make everyone's lives easier. Elbow depth wouldn't really be a thing anymore. Get rid of half the crappy rules.
Maybe we should write to the IPF, mate, and see what they say.
They probably won't read it.
No, probably not. I'm like, mate, I like a good Larsen press. The first person I ever used to give heavy Larsen press to when I coached him was Ash Liston. And I think
he's a pretty good bencher, so
yeah, just a little bit, mate. Like 120 now. But like I think he still runs it in his program because he's self-coaching now. And that was like the best ever block he ever had pre him having a massive bit of time off. But he did like a 210 Larsen press back then when his bench was like 217, 220. And like that was back when a 210 bench was like astronomical and people were barely benching like 180. So I think for certain people it can really, really be beneficial. I just think for some people it probably won't.
Yeah.
It also depends on like how well you can cope with sometimes having that extra range of motion as well. So for example, when I do Larsen or heavy Larsen, I always feel like I can't, even I'm really trying to, can't maintain that same level of arch. So like that range of motion is so significant, so they would just beat my pecs, not in a bad way, but like the fatigue I get from it is a lot higher than it would be just hitting like a normal 2-count single that day.
Yeah, no, I think it's working really well. And to be fair, last block I did bench on a terrible day, the most I've benched in training in like 2.5 years.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
you're onto something. Who knew you knew what you were doing?
You know, it's crazy, right?
He's not wasted after all.
Absolutely crazy.
All right, we're going to wrap the episode up because we don't have much time left. Thank you very much for joining me. Would you like to shout out where people can reach you if you have spaces still for powerlifting or hybrid coaching?
Powerlifting is Forza Performance, literally just Forza Performance. And then the hybrid stuff is Iron Meets Mile without an S on the end of it. And that's on Instagram or at gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have I forgotten anything?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, probably. Thank you very much. I appreciate you joining me.
Thanks, mate.